Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Grillin' JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm pretty good, Conrad. Getting better every day. Still healing. My skin cancer on my ankle is getting better. It's bright red, and it hurts, but it's improving. And that's all that matters. It's giving me some improvement every day. And it's still ugly looking, but I don't know if anybody's. The only thing I'm screwing around is just I have to meet some hot woman that has an ankle fetish, and, so they could tolerate my ugliness of my burnt foot, ankle. The funny thing about that, I didn't even think about this, Conrad. Here's the interesting part for me to try to heal is this just doesn't heal quickly. Right. It's in a part of your body that has no fat. It's on your ankle. At least mine is that way. And it's just got to take some time.
Yeah.
And it's like I say it's got like a bad sunburn. It's really another level, but it's the best way to explain this radiation burns. That's what it is. Because all the skin's gone now. So it's all new skin. That means it's more exposed to, the nerves are more exposed. So it's a bitch in that respect. But it is getting better, and a lot of that old skin is gone, and the new skin is starting to mature. So it's just what it is, and I'm kind of getting used to it. Thank God for these creams that they gave me at the cancer office, cancer clinic. So I use that 3 or 4 times a day, and to help heal the damn thing. But I'm going to make it fine. It's just, I have had to tolerate a lot of pain.
Right.
And flying is the shits.
Yes, it is.
So, we all got to be careful. When I go to get on a plane, I'll make sure I got plenty of salve on my burn, and that I have it wrapped and protected. But boy, it's a pain in the ass to fly, I'll tell you. You know what I've been doing, Conrad?
What's that?
People are going to probably laugh at me. And some of us see me go through the airports. I've been ordering a wheelchair.
Oh.
Well, walking is a killer.
Yeah.
It just kills it. So I've been getting a wheelchair at the airport on both ends. So they pick me up. My driver picks me up here at home and takes me to the airport where I meet the wheelchair guy, who now I've become buddies with. And they're all fans. And they all like my $10, $20 tips. So I'm very popular when they see me coming, because I think most old people that have wheelchairs are tipping them like in ones.
Yeah.
Or something to that denomination. So that's taken a load off of me. So when I get off the plane and where we're going, like this week, as we take this, it'll be Washington, D.C., which has very, very strict COVID rules, regulations. So that's helped me a lot. I feel when I first did it, I felt kind of, I guess my ego was getting involved. I just didn't feel like, I didn't want people staring at me, because I'm sure I was sailing through the airport in the wheelchair in that fucking black hat. Hey, JR, how you feeling? Great, man. I'm great. So it's nice that people pay attention, and they know I'm not, this ankle injury, this ankle thing is not a work. I really am in this bad way, but that I'm on my way to work. And when at 8 o'clock tonight, as we would speak on Wednesday, I'm ready to kick ass. That's great medicine for me, quite frankly. It may sound corny, but it's great medicine for me because once I get there and we start going over the show and getting ready to go on the air, it takes my mind off how much I'm hurting. And then I have medication, and sometimes I get a shot. So, I got to do what it takes me to get on the air. Yeah. I feel some obligation. It's like the folks who watch the show, they don't want me to half-ass it, bring in something I'm not ready to do, or I don't care about, or I'm distracted. So that's fair to the consumer. And, we both have the same philosophy of customer service. We're not going to shortchange anybody.
No.
So that's kind of where we are. It's been an interesting end of the year and then moving into the new year, it's a little daunting, to be honest with you. But if I got 30 days to suffer, so to speak, and heal, okay, I'll do that. That's what we'll do. At least my eyes getting better, whatever it is right here. I told you earlier, I look like that little dog on the Little Rascals. That is black eye. So, and that's been a topic of conversation because you can't hide from it.
No.
Anymore. Somebody said, y'all just wear sunglasses on your show. I said, why? We don't have any on cameras.
Right.
Does it matter? It doesn't to me. Now if Lawler was sitting in that chair, it'd be the first thing he'd be looking for in the format is on cameras.
Yeah.
And we just don't hardly have any on cameras. So anyway, that's where we are, buddy. It's just a little battle, getting a lot of support. I know a lot of folks that watch the show text me, or not text me, they tweet, all that stuff. Facebook, tweet, Instagram. I get all these, and it's good though. They're taking time out of their day, Conrad, to reach out to me when they probably have better things to do. And for all those extra pieces of effort, I'm very thankful. And by the way, you noticed, I got a new light bulb. Look how good it looks. Well, I shall get carried away on how good it looks. I do have a new LED light that goes in my lamp. I got 2 lamps, and there they are. So better than it's been. So, but everything else is good, man. AEW's doing well. I think our ratings have been good, and that's why everybody lives and dies on anymore. 18 to 49 ratings.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand why that number is so important to cultivate and to monitor. But that's what the networks sell. Their ad sales target 18 to 49-year-old people. So that's why the 18 to 49 number is so important for all advertisers. And the better we do ratings wise, you hope at some point in time that Tony can recoup and move forward, and let's see how that works out. So it's all good, buddy. It's all good. It's just a hurdle, and you and I both have overcome a lot of hurdles.
Oh yeah.
So that's what we do. But I do really appreciate everybody's support. So it's very appreciative.
Well, we're glad you're doing well and back where you belong, back on TV, back calling wrestling. And we're back today talking about one of the most important Royal Rumbles of all time. One of my favorites, Royal Rumble 2002. We recently talked about this with Bruce Pritchard too. And normally I don't do that in the same week or month or what have you, but this is one of those special exceptions because there's so much going on here in the WWF in 2002. So Jim and I are going to talk about some news and notes, and then we're going to do the actual watch along for the Rumble match itself. So if you haven't already, get your Peacock fired up. Season 15, episode 1, Royal Rumble 02. We're at 124.26. That's Royal Rumble 02 on Peacock, and our time code is 124.26. Before we get into watching the show, though, I want to just add some context to where we are. We're coming off of Vengeance, which we covered last month in the archives. And as we close 2001, there are some other wrestling companies trying to make a run here. World Wrestling All-Stars and Extreme Wrestling Federation. Now, the WWA had been running a European tour, which had names like Scott Steiner, Jeff Jarrett, Road Dogg, and Conan, and a bunch of others. The XWF is really Jimmy Hart putting together a promotion with the quote-unquote help of Hulk Hogan, who wrestled once for them and really is mostly the Nasty Boys and Kurt Hennig. Are these companies on your radar at all, or Vince McMahon's radar at all here at the end of 01, early 02?
I'm sure they're on the radar. But I'm not so sure that Vince is concerned.
Yeah.
We knew the talents that these two companies were using. And so with that said, and not without being totally disrespectful, some of the talents on both those tours were not known as being the most reliable talents.
Sure.
So we always felt like at some point in time, because of their infrastructure and the talents that they were using or trying to use on a regular basis, that those ventures would not last long. And they didn't. Did they have more than one tour? I'm not so sure they had more than one tour.
WWA had a couple of tours, and then they even announced they're going to be doing a pay-per-view in February here in America. But I'm with you. As deep and full as your talent roster is, it's almost like you're hoarding talent. And I just want to know how your philosophy and maybe the company's philosophy had to change in 02. Now with ECW going down, WCW's going down, the invasion is now in the rear view, but you are trying to put together, or at least it feels like, the seeds of the very first brand split. You're going to bring Ric Flair out of quote unquote retirement, whatever that meant for him at the time. Of course, he's really finishing up his Turner contract, and he's going to be the consortium or whatever he referred to himself as. So now Ric Flair is partners in the WWE with Vince McMahon on air, of course, with the idea being maybe we get a group A and group B here going, and we can just sort of create our own competition. Are you giving marching orders to, hey, we got to get some more talent in here? Because there's lots of names that are going to be coming up due with their Turner contracts, whether it's Kevin Nash or Hulk Hogan or Scott Hall or Rey Mysterio. Is that part of your plan here to expand the roster?
Yeah, absolutely. But expand it with the right people.
Yeah.
Expand it with people that can move the ratings needle, that can sell tickets. So we weren't interested in everybody, but we were interested a great deal in a lot of talents. It's like I use the example of me signing Rey Mysterio. I met with Ray in LA. He had about, probably 3, 4, 5 months left on his contract. And they were paying him. They meaning Time Warner. I guess that's what you'd say. And I told him he came to LA. We had a Raw or something there. I said, I'm not going to offer you a job today because you need to enjoy the time off and being at home and raising your kids. And that's worked out for Ray pretty well. His son's got a nice spot and he's learning the trade and dad's business. But it was, this wasn't time. So in other words, my point is we didn't hire everybody that we eventually wanted to hire because we didn't believe that some of them just weren't ready. Ray had taken a lot of bumps. He needed to heal. I showed him that we cared about him, and he appreciated that to this very day. So it's just all being honest, and so forth. So we didn't go out and beat doors down because we weren't not going to compete on Turner's pay scale. The guarantees were just untouchable for our model.
Right.
And so then the talents have this decision. We can make a real good guarantee. We'll get paid live event money. And you're going to have a chance to make a lot of cash. We can work on your schedule. You're not going to wrestle every day. So there was a interesting way of getting around it and getting to it and so forth. But we're not going to destroy our model of how we're paying people because we got incumbents there. A guy says I should make $1 million because Kevin Nash is making $1 million. Well, we weren't going to get in that conflict.
Right.
That's kind of where we were. We knew there were good talents out there. We just knew that we couldn't afford all of them for retail, but we could make them more money than they would make if they just were on a retail, so to speak, contract.
Let's also talk about the creative here. The Hardy Boys split isn't exactly working. We're trying to get Chris Jericho over as the tippy top guy, as a heel. And it's an interesting time for that to be happening. We've got the whole NWO about to be coming in, Hogan, Hall, and Nash at least. We've also still got Austin and Rock here. And now Triple H is going to be coming back to, one of the biggest returns in wrestling history. This is a tough time to get Chris Jericho established as the top guy when it's so crowded at the top, is it not?
It'll be challenging, but you leave that up to the talent.
Yeah.
Jericho loved the competition. He's a ball player. That hockey background that his dad had in the NHL, his father Ted. Chris inherited that same gene, that DNA. And so he never was in. If he was, he never told me. that he was intimidated or leery that it's too crowded at the top. He's at the top. So that's kind of where I always wanted to go. And I used to tell him that you're where you wanted to be. You want to be a top guy. Well, for the love of Pete, you're a top guy.
Right.
You're the champion. You're headlining pay-per-views. You're headlining house shows, because I was booking them. So I did all I could to help, promote his brand. And everybody, you either set the challenge and make yourself better or not. And let the audience decide who's going to get over. Now, I understand that creative has a huge influence on where you're going to end up as a talent. But I can't control the creative. All I can do is to motivate the talent to trust the creative, and more importantly, for you as a talent to contribute to your creative. Because Lord knows the creative needed feedback, they needed ideas, and the talents had to be motivated to be able to provide that. You just can't show up for work and get your booking in and go do your match. You got to give more. And I think most of those guys did. They were all competitive and they wanted to be the top guy.
Well, a couple of top guys are going to make a big memory at a grocery store. Jim, you've been calling wrestling a long, long time. Steve Austin and Booker T, your very first grocery store brawl.
Yeah, it was good too. It was different. I enjoyed it. I thought I think that was either Austin or Booker. Both smart guys, both could book, no pun intended. But they were good. And that was a really interesting piece of business. I wasn't there when they shot it. I don't know if any announcers were there, but we saw the tape and then we commentated the tape. It's kind of like doing that stadium stampede we've done at AEW. I refuse to watch any footage. And the talents will say, did you see when we did? No, I didn't see shit, because I want to give you a decent call.
Right.
I want it to be spontaneous, real, so forth. So that's kind of what we did the grocery store thing. When I saw it the first time is when I called it. And it made it a lot better for me, because it was unexpected, the things they were doing. We knew where we were going to end up. We knew Austin was going to go over, but we didn't know what route he was going to take, he and Booker, and how it was all going to turn out at the end of the day. And I'd rather work that way. It's more fair to the audience, because I'm not faking it. I'm not, I didn't know all the spots and all that other stuff.
Right.
So
I'll tell you, the finish of that is one of my favorite moments in WWE. All of a sudden we see Steve. Now, context is king, right? This is early 2002, and we're going to see Austin climb through the milk aisle on in this grocery store. So there's the whole row of merchandiser type freezers with the glass doors, or refrigerators rather. And Stone Cold just emerges, and this is what it sounds like. We'll play the audio here.
You got milk. There you go. You got a sandwich. No. Not worth a whole lot right now. Not in that condition.
Lawler's so distressed.
I love that Austin tried to put him across the scanner. That's the best part to me, to come out with the got milk thing, which was a big campaign back in this era. Yeah. And then to push Booker T across the little grocery scanner was just hilarious. And then he hears the sirens, and everybody knows that means it's time to get out of Dodge. But pretty memorable moment, maybe one of the more memorable brawls in company history.
I agree. Yeah, it's unique, different. There was no precedent for it. We had other grocery store fights, which is good. It's unique. And but I enjoyed that piece of business. I don't think it's a repeat piece of business.
No,
it was done for a one time only, and that's how it worked. And but I thought it was good TV. It's funny, like you said, it's entertaining. And I'm normally not as big on the quote unquote sports entertainment _entertainment as much as a lot of guys. I like wrestling and physicality. And so I was somewhat hesitant in my own mind. I didn't say that to anybody. But when I voiced it over, I said, no, this is good. It's entertaining. Like you said, I laughed at the checkout thing. I laughed at stealing off the got milk piece of business was cool. So it was we were doing some interesting things there then. But we had a lot of talent, and the talents were willing to take chances because they knew that more people were on their way.
As much as I love it, I am curious your take on, does an ass kicker like Steve Austin, I mean, certainly he made us laugh when he's wearing the little cowboy hats and all that he had done in the prior year.
Yeah.
But what initially, quote unquote, got him over to the audience is what we played a few weeks ago when he was running down Bret Hart for Survivor Series 96, that stone cold character, just the straight up ass kicker. But now we are leaning a little bit into the entertainment. Do you think Austin did too much of that in hindsight? Did it hurt him?
I don't think it hurt him at all, because I think people couldn't get enough of Stone Cold.
Correct.
And I think as long as you're presenting Stone Cold, he's still going to win the fight.
Yeah.
He's still going to be outrageous. He's still going to be unpredictable. And hats off to Booker T, because if he hadn't been there, then it wouldn't have been nearly as effective. Booker did a great job in his role in that pre-tape thing. So yeah, I just think that fans were in a position where, give us more Stone Cold, and if you can, give it to us in a different perspective, a different packaging than we've seen him before. But as long as we get more Stone Cold, we felt like we were pretty safe in what we were doing, because we were giving them what they wanted, more Stone Cold.
Let's bring up something that's a little controversial at the time. This is directly from the Observer. Basically, the story about being ribbed really hard because we're talking about Billy Silverman. This is a former WCW referee who came over during the invasion. He's going to do an interview on a New York radio show. And it comes up, hey, why did you quit the WWF? It's not often that you hear of referees quitting the WWF, but This is the write-up from the Observer. Basically, the story about being ribbed really hard because he upgraded a ticket on a flight to first class, which went against WWF protocol, although he wasn't aware of it since he came from WCW, where upgrading a ticket, if you wanted to pay for it, wasn't considered a cardinal sin.
And nor should it be. Nor should it be, Conrad. The WWE rule. I thought Billy might have got a raw deal in that situation. He was a good referee. He lives down here in Florida now. I see him on Facebook, things like that occasionally. But he did a good job. Didn't deserve how that all went down. And I think there was some anti-Semitism with some of the talents. I think Billy was a Jewish kid, and some talents are so ignorant, they just can't figure out, everybody's got a right to live their life. So I was one that did not agree with that termination. He was on my roster. He was on my payroll, and he did a good job. Reliability, man. He could always depend on Billy to be there and do a good job. But unfortunately, it didn't turn out well for him. And I don't guess he ever really got back into the business to any degree.
The write-up from Meltzer says, as his punishment, the WWF wrestlers told him he had to buy a bunch of liquor and go through customs to Canada. And as a result, he was held up in customs all day. All that childish stuff.
Yep.
He ripped on Bradshaw, who he called the instigator of it, and Earl Hebner, who he called, quote, probably one of the biggest backstabbers, one of the biggest troublemakers in the business I've ever met, end quote.
Wow.
After doing it, Silverman walked out on the WWF without telling anyone, which isn't professional either, even if he was being hazed by wrestlers. He said that when he went to Dennis Brent, who worked under Jim Ross in talent relations, he was told to just go along with it. And he blamed the WWF wrestlers for Bagwell being let go, and mentioned that Charles Robinson was stripped half naked, taped and bound, and brought into a brought out in a production cart as a rib for everyone to laugh at. So some of these guys are having a pretty tough go, and you've sort of stamped out the whole protocol about the first class ticket. And I know that, maybe some of this falls on your desk because you're running the roster.
Yeah.
Is this just the way of the world 20 years ago? And how challenging was this for you to keep it between the ditches, as we like to say?
Well, it was daunting. It was challenging, no doubt, because uh, I had a philosophical disagreement with how all that was managed. And you had a lot of influential guys, meaning influential with Vince, that were saying, "Oh, we're just having fun. It's just about fun. Loosen up, lighten up." And you know, another story there was in that era was I find a bunch of guys for uh, possessing steroids,
Mm.
and I could have fired them all. And I told them that in the meeting. I said, "I have the grounds to fire every one of you." And it's sad because I hired most all of you. And you know that we can't have this kind of conduct. And of course, it's the same old shit you hear back, well, we're just trying to have fun and, we're traveling on the road. Is that a surprise? A fucking pro wrestlers on the road? What did you think you're signing up for? So they were light some cash, significant cash. I said, you can have I'll fine you or I'll fire you, whatever you want to do. So that's where we are. And I'm not trying to be heavy-handed or be a dick, but we can't run a company this way. I talked to Vince about it. He agreed. We got to get out of the old. We got to get new talents. We got to train them differently. We got to have people that are team players that are not living in the 80s in the territory. And that's kind of what it was. Murdoch would have fit right in there because he was one of the great ribbers and so forth, and stiff ribbing. We just didn't need it. Just didn't need it. And so in any event, man, that's we made some changes, and they didn't happen overnight, and they were overdue. But there was a lot of housekeeping going on at that point in time.
I guess we should mention, by and large, at this point, as you and I are talking in 2022, ribs have pretty much been eliminated. Do you think wrestling's better for it, or do you miss some of the good-natured ribs?
Well, the good-natured stuff is a different ball game. You're not destroying the personal property, or antagonizing somebody, or making them miserable. Why in the hell would I be, as an administrator, condone ever a negative work environment? To make the boys happy because they're on the road and they just need to have more fun? That's bullshit. That's weak.
Yeah,
that's weak. So I was not real popular at some of those times in that era, because we're not going to tolerate. And it took a process to get it implemented and get the guys that were the big rivers on my side. And most of them came along. They understood. They didn't have a leg to stand on, Conrad, because it was the wrong thing to do. And I think we got there. And I think as a result of some of those changes back in those days, you see the result right now, as you mentioned. Not a lot of ribbing going on in WWE.
Yeah.
And I've never heard, and I'm sure it could have happened, in AEW having any issues like that. It was not tolerated from the get-go. And it doesn't mean guys don't rib and have fun, but if you do it in a good-hearted way, and you're enjoying your work, and you come to work with a great attitude, not leery and looking over your shoulder, it's a pretty damn good deal. So we made some changes I think are still in place today as it relates to philosophy.
Talk to me a little bit about Billy Silverman. When he actually walks out like this, do you make an attempt to reach out to him? Or are you trying to do some sort of exit interview or have a conversation about coming back, or do you respect the decision and leave it alone?
I respect the decision because I couldn't change the protocol at that point in time. It's not an overnight fix. And Billy had already kind of made his bed, and he said too many things that were not advisable. So he didn't do himself any favors in that deal either. So there wasn't a lot I could do on that situation. He made his path. He's walking on it, and that's kind of where we were. There was no exit interviews. That makes too much sense. So you'd think today you do an exit interview to cover your ass as far as HR issues are concerned. That was not the case then.
Unfortunately, we got some sad news to talk about here. Russ Haas passed away on December 15th here in 2001.
Yeah.
I recently had Charlie Haas on the Kurt Angle show, and they discussed this a lot, but this had to be quite a shock. I know you guys had big plans for them as a tag team, or at least that's my understanding. They were still in developmental at the time, but a couple of Oklahoma boys who wound up being stud wrestlers at Seton Hall. This had to be right up your alley. What do you remember about this?
Well, I remember meeting their dad and becoming friends with him. They were living in, I think the funeral was in Houston because I attended it, and spent the day with the family and probably the night. I thought that was my obligation, and I felt like it'd be a service to the family if I was there. And it worked out good. You know, we all went to dinner, had some laughs, had some Mexican food. I remember that. And just tried to turn the tide of so much heartbreak to it's a sad part of life that we all have to go through at some point in time. And so that's kind of where I was on that deal. I spent 2 days down there, and I think the family really appreciated it. I really had a great relationship with Charlie and Russ's dad. I think he was a former either a Secret Service guy or FBI or something high level Secret Service type thing. But what a hell of a nice guy. And I like their family a lot. I'm glad Charlie's doing some wrestling. They were really good. And Russ may have been the better of the two. He might have been a little bit more cerebral. Charlie was an outstanding athlete. Yeah, we were going to do some business with those guys. And then we put them with Kurt. I thought that was smart. That's a nice rub.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was heartbreaking. To get that phone call was just terrible because he was so young and he hadn't been sick that we were aware of. And I think that changed maybe the protocol too of now these guys they're medically tested. They get physicals and all these things that should have been done forever, but they weren't. So I miss seeing how those guys would have evolved if Russ had lived. I think they'd have been really good, kind of like the Briscoes. There was a natural chemistry there. And of course, you're right. I was biased. My Oklahoma boys, and it broke my heart to have that happen.
Passing away at 27 from a heart attack, man, just way too soon.
Yeah, I found him on his couch.
Yeah,
deceased. It was just absolutely heartbreaking.
Let's talk about Triple H for a minute here. You and I have been critical at different times about certain things that happened over the years with Hunter, but boy, it just feels like Dave here in the Observer really had it out for him. Quote, "If there's any doubt that Triple H hasn't mastered playing the game, he managed to keep himself off TV until January 7th, is getting a 3-week buildup for his return, where Rock only got 4 days and Austin got 1 week. But more importantly, they'll be coming off low-rated shows from December 17th and New Year's Eve. If nothing else, January 7th should provide the usual bounce back after the end of the Monday Night Football season, which is usually worth 0.2 to 0.3 all by itself. It's going to be difficult for him to not come out smelling like a rose." I mean, I'm sure this is more of, in reality, hey, we're coming back to Madison Square Garden, the spiritual home of WWE. And why would we not do it there to march towards the Royal Rumble? Why would we do that on New Year's Eve? That doesn't make any sense. So I think this is just sour grapes from Dave here, in my opinion.
I agree with that, Conrad. I mean, it makes common sense, the placement, and to say, well, how do you know it worked? I don't remember the ratings that day, but what I do recall is the pop that Triple H got leaving as a heel, coming back as not really a surprise, but coming back on that date made all the sense in the world to me. And I can just tell you, and I've been around a lot of big pops in my career, I don't recall any pop bigger or more sustained or more passionate than that night in the Garden when Triple H came back out.
No doubt about it. It was hyped brilliantly. I mean, it really was, and promoted, just as he said, for quite a while. But I do want to mention that, you know, the actual pop didn't just exist in a vacuum. There's a really cool promotional package that you guys ran to that U2 song, Beautiful Day, to hype the return. And it ran for a few weeks. This is a 42-second clip. Let's take a listen here. Just a training montage of him working out, but fans were so excited to see him. You heard the pop even just to the video.
Yeah.
But of course, when it finishes, you know, they're promoting that, hey, Triple H is coming back January 7th. And then that night, as you said, boy, what a pop.
Yeah.
Let's take a listen.
I really felt like I felt the floor of the Garden shaking.
I mean, you're so masterful in this. You lay out the whole time and just let it breathe. Listen. That's not piped in, boys and girls. It just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah.
And you can tell, like in my mind's eye, when I listen to that back, JR is silent. The King has a big, oh my God, or whatever. And I almost in my mind hear you or feel you or see you tap him on the leg. Like, hang on.
That happened.
55 seconds. You say absolutely nothing and just let that moment live.
Right. I thought it was the right thing to do. And Jerry agreed because he shut her down.
Yeah.
And so that was, we thought that was that's a great thing about having Lawler out there and JR to a lesser degree, that we agreed on so many things philosophically. And when I tapped him, he knew that we were on the edge of talking through a moment that we could never replicate again.
Yes.
That was my reasoning for it. And I remember after the show, he said, I'm glad you tapped me because it was better. And so you take a calculated risk.
Yeah.
By not saying anything. But, you know, if Vince had been in my ear or Lawler's here and telling us to talk, we would have been forced to talk. But he didn't. He felt the same thing we felt. And so I really always appreciated Vince's judgment on that scenario. He agreed with what we were thinking. And when you get experienced broadcast team like JR and the King, you have the opportunity to make this thing perfect. And that's all I wanted to do, was make sure that the entrance, the return, you're only going to get one return, Conrad. That's it. He's going to get one debut, one re-entry to the world. And I didn't think we could miss if the crowd didn't let us down. And obviously, the crowd did not let us down.
It was a big moment. You said you felt like you remember the Madison Square Garden floor shaking. Is that a top 5 audience response moment, like top 5 pop in your?
Probably so. Yeah, probably so. It's hard to go back and reevaluate all the pops because there were so many during that Attitude Era that kind of get lost in the shuffle at times, one would think. But I had such a great, that was a great feel. When we were done with it, I was proud. If we didn't do anything else in the show, we just made it. We made it, and by not saying shit. So if you're, some young announcers may not understand that. They think they're paid to talk, and they are to a certain degree. We all are, but you got to pick your spots, and we picked our spots, and that night we got it right.
It was fantastic. Such a big moment. We're going to talk more about that, but before we do, I want to talk about his old tag team partner, Shawn Michaels. It's reported in the Observer that you and Vince sat down with Shawn on December 14th. Do you remember the context of that meeting, where Shawn's mindset was at the time? I mean, this is still a ways away from us seeing the big return at SummerSlam 02. So December of 01, was he in a good headspace? Was he working towards it? Did you think, hey, maybe there's something there, or was this a frustration point for you?
I think Vince and I both are the same mindset that we wanted to salvage this talent. Vince always felt like Shawn had a lot of Vince in him, defiant, headstrong, so forth. And I always just thought the world of Shawn because, you know, he got his start working for Cowboy and when I was in Mid-South, because he was the protege of Jose Lothario, who was a much respected guy that Cowboy really, really liked. So when Jose said to Cowboy, I got a kid I want you to book, I remember seeing that call. Bill said, well, he said, well, we'll send you a picture. He said, no, do you like him, Jose? Oh, he's going to be a player. He's a future star, Bill. And Cowboy took the word of Jose and hired him sight unseen. And then he put him in the car with the Rock and Roll Express to learn how to be a baby face, how to travel on the road, and all these things. So we did a lot of good stuff, I think. And of course, it took about 10 minutes to see that this kid's a natural.
Yeah.
He's doing things that he should be doing in 5 years. Psychologically, the crowd psychology and so forth, I'm referring to. So Shawn always had a special place. You know, I've made more than one trip to San Antonio to talk with him. And but here's the thing, Shawn got paid well. He was getting paid while being off. And that was how we kept him in the same locker room, so to speak. So we both wanted Shawn to see the error of his ways and how he treated people. And I think that was a lot of that was just because of maybe the influence of pills and alcohol. You know, he always had that devil on his shoulder that was kept tapping him. So I don't remember the meetings, all the specifics, but I know that Vince and I were both of the mindset that we would be a better team if he was on our roster. And that's what I sold Shawn on. I don't give a shit if you ever wrestle again. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that you don't kill yourself, that you don't overdose, that you don't make more enemies, and get out of that space where you are miserable. And that's how we approached it. And then finally, after enough visits to San Antonio and talking with Shawn and his lawyer, who I got to like too, you know, we had a little spot. We would go to lunch and we'd laugh and tell stories and all these things. And I always kept telling Shawn, I said, you know, the talents look at you like a god.
Yeah.
I mean, it's either who's the best. Well, it's Flair or Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
That's where you are, Shawn. I don't know if you'd even like being there, but that's where you are. That's the role you have right now. The talents love you and we love you, but we gotta get rid of some of these issues. And I think about that time, it seemed like Shawn's social life was getting better.
Yeah.
And I also think that him going to church and really being meaningful of going to church, not just as a symbol that I'm changed because I'm religious now. I'm a Christian. We weren't there. That was his deal, but I sure encouraged it. You know, you got to have faith, and you got to have a mindset that where going to church is a part of your week, and you're studying and you're reading, and you got a good pastor, and they see the challenges you have. And by having those meetings with Shawn and his attorney, who was also a very religious fellow, it helped my cause. Skip was the guy's name. I can't think of his last name. Nice man. And he helped us in that respect to get Shawn off that road he was on into a more positive lane to drive in. So yeah, look, Conrad, we had a lot of meetings with Shawn. This one you're talking about here, I don't remember all the specifics. I just remember the general mindset. And, and he seemed to be really, Shawn liked to screw around with Vince.
Yeah.
He liked to bust his balls and make it challenging for him and all that stuff. So, but I'll say this, at the end of the day, it was all well worth it. We got Shawn. Can you imagine how good he was to come back after that long absence and be as good as he was at the highest level, pay-per-view main events? And he got his, I don't want to say he got his smile back. That's been used too much, I think. But he came back and he was absolutely phenomenal. I had no idea that he would be as good as he was. And I also give credit to Triple H. Because Triple H is his dancing partner.
Yeah.
And they put on a hell of a show, man. So at the end of the day, by doing the right thing, having a little patience, maybe more than a little patience, we got our man. And Shawn has contributed to the WWE ever since.
Let's talk about what we're doing with the man at the moment. December 17th is Chris Jericho's time. He's the man, and he's going to be in a match with Rob Van Dam, the main event of Monday Night Raw here. Ric Flair will be the referee, and Vince is at ringside. When the night ends, Rob Van Dam and Flair put Jericho and Vince in figure fours. And this sticks out like a sore thumb because this is less than a month after Ric Flair makes his debut for the company. And as Rick tells the story, oh, you'll never be in the ring, Rick. We don't want you to ring, to wrestle, no matches. You'll be an on-air television character. And man, 4 weeks later, he's putting Vince in a figure four. And as we know, he's ultimately going to wind up in the ring with Vince at Royal Rumble. That didn't take long to change. How was Rick? Was Rick nervous about that? Anxious? Is it his call, Vince's call? What can you tell us?
Well, if Rick had not wanted to do it, he would not have done it. Yeah. He was your father-in-law, for God's sakes. He's just who he is.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that the consortium of ideas to get that match booked didn't include Rick very deeply, because he had to sign off on it. He had to say, yeah, we could do this, we could do that. I can still do these things. Because you're dealing with a guy that's an untrained worker in Vince. He just was the best heel we had in a territory at that time. So at least that was my take on it. But yeah, I think Rick was all for it. Hey, look, Conrad, you know as well as I do. These old guys keep saying I had my last match. I'm retiring. Okay, it's a good story for the grandkids, but it's just not totally accurate. Rick wanted to work. That's what he was put on earth to do. He was considered the best in the world at it forever. So it's hard to keep him out of the ring. So I think Vince, and I think the match of McMahon and Flair was a collaborative effort, because they both had to sign off and believe they could pull it off. They were not going to go on last, if I recall, at any of these situations.
Yeah.
But could they fill that role of where they were placed on the card in a quote unquote semi-main or double main or something along those lines? And the answer to that is absolutely. So, no, it didn't take long, but Rick wanted to do it. Vince definitely wanted to do it. And so guess what?
It happened.
We did it.
And it led to some really fun segments on TV, including where Vince got to strut around like Ric Flair. He's going to put on Flair's robe. He's going to wear the wig, the whole deal. Let me play a clip here. This is from January of 2002 on Monday Night Raw. Vince McMahon is in the middle of a promo when this happens.
Therefore, at the Rumble, Flair has the old expression, in order to be the man, you have to beat the man. You hear that? But you know what, Flair? I'm already the man, and right now, I'm going to prove it. I told you he's already the man. What do you mean by that? I'm going to prove what? Oh, this is a box. What's this?
was the meaning of? Well, what?
Lawler is so funny.
Applause.
Yeah, hold up.
So he just put on the wig. Now he's putting on the robe.
Yeah.
Should show Mr. McMahon more respect. This is the house that he built right here. What is Mr. McMahon thinking here? I mean, what is? Wait a minute. Look at his arms are so big they can barely fit into the room. Oh no, this is not right. I agree, it's not right. It's obviously what.
It's a little tight.
He didn't take his jacket off. He could say that, by the way.
Let's say it goes something like this.
Mocking the strut.
Look at that stretch!
Yeah, there, got the hang of it now.
Yeah, look at that. He's walking the walk. How disrespectful is that?
So we get the big back and forth here. Ultimately, McMahon's going to pull out the lead pipe and clock Flair with it. Flair's going to wind up all bloody. This continues.
No, get out of here. Rick got blood.
Can you imagine?
Conrad, what the shit are you talking about?
So it's going to become a hardcore match, a false count anywhere match. There's going to be some stakes. You can tell, hey, we're headed somewhere. This isn't just going to be a regular old 1, 2, 3.
Right.
So I guess that provides a little bit of garnish, a little bit of gaga for whatever sort of insecurities that Vince or Rick had as far as doing a traditional match. But
it's smart booking, Conrad. They don't need to go in there and have a catch-as-catch-can Briscoe Funk Classic because they can't.
Correct.
But what they can do, and they did, was to execute a false count anywhere.
Yeah.
There's no rules. You can hit them in the balls. All these wonderful things that you would get in a match like that. So, yeah, that was the only way to go with that thing.
On SmackDown, we would see Austin and Booker T face off in the main event. It's a first blood match. Austin's going to lose because Big Boss Man comes in, makes his return, nails Austin with a chair shot, and now Boss Man's back. Someone who's not going to be back for a bit, the Hardy Boys. Meltzer would write this. There have been problems with Jeff of late, which came to a head when he missed a show in San Jose on December 8th. He's also been late for a few shows. His performance hasn't been nearly at the level it used to be. And then the match at the pay-per-view with Matt versus Jeff was a flop in the eyes of most. And after that Raw handicap match where the Hardys were squashed by the Undertaker, Vince decided to kill the feud, and Vince sat down all three to explain the situation. And he explained that taking them off TV was to give them a chance to breathe. So this is, something that Bruce and I have had fun with for a long time, that Vince used to say, brothers don't fight. And of course, we know that's not true, at least in wrestling, certainly in real life as well. But here, this is the first time we saw, as far as I can recall, Vince thinking maybe we should take the Hardys off TV for a bit. And we know they're going to have a big part of the Royal Rumble. But what can you tell us, as the guy who was sort of calling the shots for talent relations? What was the situation or circumstance with the Hardys here?
Well, Jeff was the issue. It wasn't Matt. Matt was picture perfect. He tried to protect his brother, which one would assume is the only right thing to do for an older brother, to protect your little brother. I had hours of talks with Jeff Hardy, and it came down to, you have to get some help. And, both you and I are Southern country boys, so to speak. It's not manly to admit you have an issue. It's like how much I respect John Moxley. He had issues of drinking. He went to rehab. He successfully completed all of his treatments. He's feeling great, and he'll be back with us soon, I'm assuming. But I talked to Jeff about that. I said, we've run out of options. We just really have run out of options, Jeff. Every second chance you get, you screw it up. And so I'm in a position that I don't want to be in. I either have to solve your problem or eliminate it. And we eliminated it because that was his choice. He did not want to go to rehab.
Well, we know that ultimately Matt and Lita are going to get caught in the crossfire, but there is another tag team that's going to pop up. This is the first time we see Billy Gunn and Chuck Palumbo in a pairing. There's no way we would have known how this would turn out. But at least in your mind at this point, had you identified Billy Gunn as a tag team specialist and maybe he can give that veteran rub to the young Chuck Palumbo? Is that more of the thinking?
I think so. You know, Billy was a good teacher, a good coach. He does that now for AEW as a producer, agent, whatever you want to call him, and does a great job teaching and tutoring and coaching our talents there at AEW. But we knew Billy had skills in that regard, and we thought that Chuck Palumbo, who was a very much respectful professional, would benefit from the teachings. And I wasn't crazy about their gimmick, but I was glad that Chuck was getting an opportunity to work with somebody that was better than him, that could teach Chuck and rock and roll from there. Because I don't think either guy was overwhelmed with the gay thing, and that was today it would mean nothing, which is good, but it meant it was a little edgy, and I think that's kind of what Vince was looking for, some edginess and some level of discomfort to watch it. Two big, strong, powerful guys that were apparently gay, as if that was a sin. And so in any event, that's what we're looking for there. Chuck will get help by Billy. It was not strong creative, but it was something to maximize the minutes of both those talents that we thought had something. Was that the something they needed? I don't know about that, but they need to be utilized more than they were. And we thought this might be one way of doing it. Maybe it's going to be so sensational, kind of like an Adrian Adonis thing back in the day. So there was a precedent, I guess, but not in a tag team. But there was such the gay thing was just real edgy, and Vince liked that.
So Stephanie McMahon pops up on TV on Christmas Eve to try to give a Christmas gift to her father. Of course, as you recall, at Survivor Series, when the invasion was put to bed, the alliance is no more. She's out of here, but she's too good of a heel, too good of a television performer to keep on the sidelines forever. Right, Jim?
Absolutely. You know, she was the closest thing to Vince other than Vince. She was more like Vince than Shane, who just had a birthday recently. Happy birthday, Shane. Always treated me good. So yeah, I don't know, Connie. There's just so many backstories, and she was too good to keep on the bench. I know that, because she'd do the promos are excellent. When she got into some physicality, she didn't back away from it. I was always proud of her efforts, because she was in a role that, I mean, let's face it, she's going to be one of the caretakers of the business, the WWE business. And she had no issues getting her hands dirty and playing the role. So I'm sure Vince is proud of her, still is, but she did a great job.
Let's talk about John Tenta. All of a sudden, he shows up at a dark match for SmackDown tapings, and he's wearing his Earthquake gear, but we haven't seen him around for quite a while. And just recently, photos of this, or video of this rather, popped up on my timeline, and it stuck out like a sore thumb, because it's a 2002 WWE ring, and then here's John Tenta. It just looked a little time warp. I don't know, make believe, Photoshop, but it really happened. Ultimately, he doesn't get the nod, though. Did you make that call? Why did John Tenta need a dark match? Or was it done just out of respect and to be deferential to him? Was there not a spot for him? Tell me what you remember about this, if anything.
Well, John is always considered a good guy, a great locker room guy. He was again, I use that word reliable again, probably too much. But he needed to work, Conrad. And he was a very much a respected and loved guy. And he had a great look as far as unique, being a big athletic big man. You know, John was a outstanding heavyweight at LSU, Division I. You know, they're in that SEC she loved. And so John was there. I remember Cowboy put on a match in Tulsa at the Mabee Center, ORU Mabee Center. It was an amateur card. Oklahoma versus LSU. And of course, the last match of the duel was Dr. Death and John Tenta, two of the biggest and best heavyweights in Division I. Doc won that, by the way. He was hard to handle. If he had just wrestled full time and not played football, I don't know how good the son of a bitch would have been, because he would leave football practice or bowl game practice or the bowl game and go right into the wrestling room. So he had to get in shape again, and there's different kind of conditioning, and the cardio is different. So we all love John, and I think Patterson had a lot to do with that. They were friends. The Canadian connection never hurt nothing, but we all love John, and in our hearts we still do. He was just a sweetheart of a guy, but he just didn't quite get over the hump. The second time around you're talking about.
We touched on it earlier. You talked a little bit about Rey Mysterio, but talk to me about Kevin Nash. At least in the newsletters, it's written that Kevin Nash is going to be coming to terms once his Turner deal is up at the very end of 01. But it's not immediately said that Scott Hall and Hulk Hogan are included as part of the package. Is that the order you remember it happening, that Nash was first and everybody else followed?
Nash seemed to be the guy that was the most motivated to get back in the ring and come back into WWE. Hogan was always a mystery. He didn't trust a lot of people in that era. And we knew that we couldn't do business with him if everything had to be under his terms. And we got to terms with Terry on his contract, his money. We worked all the time out as far as his how many days of month or year, whatever, he'd be on the road. And then Hall came in last, come in. After Hall saw that we cut deals with Hogan and Nash, I think he had more comfort that he could get a decent wage and get back in the game and capitalize on merchandise, pay-per-view royalties, all these things. But Nash was the ringleader. He was the smartest one of the group, to be honest with you. You don't die on the wrong hill. And he didn't. So I always respect Kevin for that. Kevin's still to this very day a great friend. He's one of the guys that, it's funny how you can look at you refer to your timeline a lot. I look at my timeline and see that the talents that are texting me to get better, healthier. And Kevin Nash is one of the front runners of that. We've always been buddies. I got Kevin Nash exposure on WSB radio, which everybody can hear on the ad-free network, drops on Fridays. And I had Kevin as a guest on my WSB radio show many times because he was a great talker.
So let's jump into it. We've talked a little bit about the Rumble. Now it's time for us to watch the Rumble. I want to remind everybody today is the exact 20-year anniversary of this show. Very well received by the readers of the Wrestling Observer. 94% thumbs up, which makes it a near perfect show. Yeah. As a reminder, this was the 15th annual Royal Rumble. It's sold out. There's 12,915 fans here in Atlanta. I'm one of them. And we paid $859,690 plus another $142,000 in merch. So over $1 million that day. Before you get into the pay-per-views, business is pretty damn good for the WWF, is it not?
It is. Business picked up, and that roster just kept shining and shining, and guys coming in were used to working on top. They're used to making top guy money, and so things are heading our way. Things are starting to come together there really well. And that doesn't mean that people can't question booking. That's always questionable. But boy, we had a good team, a good roster. And if you look at this contingent that comes to the ring here in a few moments, pretty heavy, pretty good. I was real proud of the roster that we assembled. And I think the roster that we assembled during that Attitude Era and in that vicinity paid dividends for Vince and his company for years. Those guys contributed more than they probably will ever know.
Well, let's jump into it. Let's fire up our Peacock Network. We're season 15, episode 1, Royal Rumble 02. I want you to go to 124.26. Of course, we're just going to watch the Rumble match, but as we watch that match, we'll talk about what we're seeing and we'll talk a little bit about the undercard. So fire it up, 124.26. Jim, I'm ready on my end. Are you ready on your end?
Almost. Just give me a second. God damn, it's getting old as shit.
All right, Jim, I'll give us a countdown. I'll do 3, 2, 1. And when I say play, we'll press play. Here we go. In
All
3,
right.
2, 1, play.
Some call these men the greatest entertainers on earth, flying without wings, defying physical limitations. But the risks these men take are great. Bodies have been battered, necks broken, careers ended in an instant. Yes, this is entertainment, but the hazards are real. No matter who you are, whatever you do, please don't try this at home.
Well, this is a hell of a mess here, huh? I mean, how does Jericho how's he gonna sleep tonight? What do you mean, how's he gonna sleep? Sure, he'll be sore, he'll be bruised, he'll be battered, but he'll sleep with those 2 championship title belts, and he'll sleep knowing that he is still the undisputed champion. Well, The Rock is still the people's champion. Jericho, the luckiest man in town. Ladies and gentlemen, as we take you live to New York.
So we're getting ready for the big Rumble match. What they're talking about, of course, is our world title match that has just finished. That was match number 5. It went 18 minutes and 48 seconds. And Jericho beat The Rock there. And look who's at WWF New York. It's Shawn Michaels.
You want a title here. What have you thought about the event itself thus far? And what's your prediction for the Royal Rumble match tonight?
Well, I have to tell you, JR, it was quite an honor to be a wrestling fan once again, to sit there and watch, in my opinion, the 2 most influential men in my professional career, Ric Flair and Vince McMahon, go at it was surely a treat for this wrestling fan right here. And I tell you, as far as predictions are concerned, it's tough with the Royal Rumble because anything can happen. So as President Bush would say, you don't mess with Texas. So I'm going to have to go with the 2 guys from my home state, that being The Undertaker and, of course, the man himself, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay, Shawn, thanks very much. I wish you were here and enjoy yourself on the Big Apple. Those 30 men are going to fight for the right to be in the main event at WrestleMania. Let's go back and show you how we got here tonight. 30 men will be in the Royal Rumble. It's going to be every man for himself. The only way to be eliminated is to be thrown over the. You got no friends and both feet touch the ground. No allies in this match. The last man standing. Get the first class ticket to WrestleMania. A title shot against the World Wrestling Federation champion. The stakes cannot be higher. 30 men. One prize. Who's going to WrestleMania? Ah! It's all about the Royal Rumble. The game. Just in case you've forgotten, let me tell you just who the hell I am. Tonight officially enters the Royal Rumble. The game is here to win the Royal Rumble. Now wait a second. I thought there's the Undertaker. Uh-oh, Triple H is standing in the Undertaker's yard. What?
Look at this roster, dude. This is unbelievable, the talent you got on this team here.
Yeah, none of them had egos, Conrad. None of them are paranoid about the future. That's what entertainers go through.
Yeah.
That's what football players go through. We're ensconced in velvet, as George Costanza would say. We're ensconced in football, and everybody wants to be the best guy. And I don't know, man. I love this roster. They're hungry. It's pretty damn cool.
We're seeing the teases here for the big returns, including Val Venus, the Godfather, Mr. Perfect. And Mr. Perfect, somebody we're going to talk about because he was not without some controversy as being a part of this. But Speaking of controversy, I want to mention there were two big ref bumps in that world title match that just finished right prior to this match with Jericho beating The Rock. Earl Hebner goes down, and then eventually Nick Patrick does, but Nick Patrick only goes down when he turns heel again and refuses to count The Rock's pinfall. Ultimately, Jericho manages to hit a low blow, ram The Rock into an unprotected turnbuckle, and use his feet on the ropes as leverage.
Is there anything else?
As Hebner would groggily count the fall. And Meltzer dug it, 4.25 stars. Let's listen to the Fink here.
For the Royal Rumble match. And we're on the roll. In just a few moments, the superstars who drew numbers 1 and 2, respectively, will enter the ring, and the match will begin. Then, every 2 minutes thereafter, another superstar will enter the ring based on the numbers that he drew. Now, in this contest, it is every man for himself, and elimination occurs when a superstar is thrown over the top rope and both feet must touch the floor. The one superstar remaining in this ring after all 30 participants have entered will be the winner and will meet the undisputed World Wrestling Federation champion at WrestleMania.
All right, Howard, it's only an hour match. Wrap it up.
Great line. And here we go. We're getting things started. Rikishi's out first. Rikishi, by the way, had been on quite a tear. I mean, when you think about the beginnings of this guy, or even just going back a few years, the Sultan was not exactly box office.
No.
The Rikishi thing, man, he wound up in some pretty primetime spots, including the whole angle with Austin and The Rock. I did it for The Rock, and hitting Austin with the car, and then that silly big bump in Armageddon in Birmingham onto the flatbed with sawdust. But that's primetime spots for what had primarily not really been main event before that.
Yeah, he Junior Fatu had a and still does a real good mind for the business. So he took matters to his own hands and contributed greatly to his character and his persona building, not unlike Goldust, who took a very controversial, almost a Gorgeous George-esque type presentation and made it his own. And you can look back at successes in WWE or anywhere else. The guys that do the best, Conrad, are the guys that take ownership of their TV persona. So both these guys went above and beyond the call of duty and making sure that happened. So they reinvented themselves. They found themselves in some bunch of main events. Pretty cool.
And he's back here as the classic Goldust. Of course, Goldust had a few different iterations and just the evolution of the character. And then he wound up in WCW, but this is his return. He's not been part of the company, and the Royal Rumble is always famous for a couple of surprises. And man, having Goldust back, Godfather back, Val Venus back, Mr. Perfect back, there's a lot of surprises here, but the biggest surprise is still yet to come. And I like the presentation here. We went back to the letterbox. We went back to the gold filters. This feels like 1995, 1996 Goldust, and it's nostalgia. I mean, even if it is just 5 or 6 years old at that point.
Yeah, I agree. And it's good nostalgia.
Yes.
Because both these guys they liked each other. They respected each other. Speaking of Goldust and Fatu, and their gimmicks had gotten over. Fans are loving it. And these two guys go out there and start this proceedings aggressively and effectively.
I want to mention Shawn Michaels talked about Ric Flair and Vince McMahon. They had a street fight that went nearly 15 minutes that even got Flair's daughter Megan and his son Reed involved. And they did the fun little spot with Bloody Flair and Bloody Rick and quote unquote Megan's camera. And that was such a fun spot, especially when you know what would become of it, where I think both Vince and Rick had those framed photos in their offices for years, which is kind of fun. A nice little way to commemorate the chairman and the GOAT having a 14 or 15-minute match here where there's both guys bleeding, and they had that iconic shot of Vince peering up with that evil look on his face and covered in blood. Great work by the WWE production crew and Vince himself here.
Yeah, McMahon went the extra mile. It shows you how great a heel he was, great performer. And for a guy at his age at that point in time to risk a bodily injury, because Nate had one style. Nate is not going to, the fans, we talked about Austin a while ago. Give me more Austin.
Yeah.
Well, Flair's not going to compromise his game. So here comes the big boss man who had just returned, as you mentioned earlier. Sure had a lot of respect for Ray Trader. Of course, some of my great memories of Ray Trader were in was when he was with General Skandar Akbar. He was just a tremendous heel. So we got 3 guys in the ring now.
I'm trying to catch up to you here. Give me your time code and I'll get to where you are.
Well, Conrad, I am at 135.47.
All right. We're all good to go now, and we see a big clothesline there from the boss man.
It's always impressed me how athletic Fatu was. He just took a hell of a clothesline there. Great bump.
Boss man here looks like the founder of the Shield.
Yeah, he does.
Earlier in the night too, we also saw Trish retain her women's title over Jazz. Jackie Moore was the referee. They go 3 minutes and 43 seconds. And Meltzer said, seriously, way better than you'd ever imagine. They did some wrestling, some moves, some near falls before Stratus got the pin after a spine buster. 1.5 stars. It's rare for Meltzer to be complimentary of something so short. But Jazz really leveled up the whole look and the whole division. As far as her in-ring game, she was another level from a lot of the female wrestlers at the time. And of course, Jackie, quite a pioneer herself. But Trish Stratus, man, she's box office. So that's about as good of a threesome as you can get in a ladies match here.
Yeah, that was pretty good booking, honestly. And it just shows you how great Jazz was. She's still working, as a matter of fact. She and her husband, Rodney, I think they have a wrestling school. They're always doing territorial things. And here comes big Sean Bradshaw,
who has a podcast now with your old pal Jerry Briscoe, stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw. Which
they're doing well too, I hear. So I'm glad. I'm happy. They got great stories to tell.
Yes, they do. Oh my gosh, 2 big Texans like that in Dustin and Bradshaw. There's a lot of beef flying around the ring right here.
Yeah, hook 'em horns, as they would say. Not me.
Not me. I love you for that. Oh, and we're setting up the stink face. We're certainly teasing it. Let's see. Let's track this.
This ain't gonna be pretty.
God, I've had that happen. It's not great fun.
I like that you ran through his diet. He had the ribs. He had the corn. I like that you mentioned the ribs first, which is great. Earlier in the night too, we also saw William Regal pin Edge in 9 minutes and 45 seconds to win the Intercontinental title. Interesting little spot here where they're going to have Nick Patrick discover the Nux, and then of course Regal pulls a second set of Nux out. That gets the finish done. 2.25 stars. William Regal recently making news. Were you surprised to hear that his time in WWE was coming to an end?
Very surprised. Very surprised. He was such a valuable asset behind the scenes at WWE. A big asset in the performance center. And I heard or I read that he is going to work for Impact. And I don't know that. I don't know if that's accurate or if it's a 1-week deal or part-time. I don't know. But whoever gets Regal is going to get a hell of a hand in any role.
Speaking of Impact, here come one of the Impact players, Mr. Lance Storm, another guy who's had a hand in training a lot of great young talent.
Yeah, Lance is a quality human being. Great teacher of pro wrestling. And I just think the world of him. Good guy. You learn who these good guys are over your course of your journey. Bradshaw's teetering on the top turnbuckle. In other words, these guys are resting.
Yeah, absolutely. The Hunter thing, was there any doubt that he was going to be the victor here? I mean, after such a big pop in MSG and the big return and all the hype videos, do you think, at least as best you can recall, you already had, hey, it's going to be Jericho Hunter at WrestleMania? Did you already have that dialed in before we got to the Royal Rumble?
Oh yeah. You booked the main event at WrestleMania first. You work backwards.
Yeah.
And to get to WrestleMania, you got to be the winner of the Royal Rumble match. And obviously. So we still don't have an elimination, do we?
No, everybody. No, I think Boss Man's out of there.
Well, Boss Man is out of there. You're right. Well, this card certainly was not watered down. Everybody that we've seen come in the ring are masters of their craft.
I think next out is going to be Al Snow, another guy who has trained his fair share of professional wrestlers over the years. And
Al down there, he's an OVW. He's got a nice little territory down there. And if you want to learn to work, they got a full-time school there. So, and I would highly recommend Al Snow's teachings. Here he comes.
And his book is fantastic. I don't know if you had a chance to catch that one, but I found myself when it was over wishing there was more. And that's the idea with any sort of good content.
I agree.
The
guys are doing some good spots here, man. Bradshaw laying his shit in. Here comes Goldust. It was just really cool how these guys work together. And they had like a match.
What's interesting is when people talk about the WWF sort of at its peak, that was a clothesline from hell indeed.
Yeah.
They talk about 2001 a lot, but most of the buy rates from 02 are down from 01, right? So 01 was the banner year. This is the exception. The 01 Royal Rumble did not do as many buys as the 02 one did, which really just kind of shocked me. I don't know why it did, but it did. The idea that it seems like, business is down and now there's no competition, that's tapering, but the buys are actually up here. As a reminder, Austin won in 01. Of course, we know Hunter's going to win here, but people were interested. They were excited for what you had to present here, whether it was all the returns, not just Hunter, but Mr. Perfect and Goldust and all these others. Or maybe they were really excited to see the street fight with Ric Flair and Vince McMahon and Ric Flair's, I guess, second home from WCW, Atlanta, the home place of WCW.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole hot issue with The Rock and Jericho. And those guys really had chemistry. I mean, almost at the jump. I mean, in Jericho's WWF debut, from that point forward, they just clicked together.
They really did. And the plot thickens as we continue to move along in these introductions.
In this era, is it sort of the same edict as always? You don't want to know. You don't want to be, you want to be surprised. You have no idea who's coming or what's happening.
We were given a sheet that I put underneath all my other sheets. I didn't care to know. I knew who was going to win.
Right.
And again, that's just part of the planning process of getting to WrestleMania, which was the top priority. So it was just, this is just the road to WrestleMania. Seriously, that's all it was. Lance Storm in danger of being eliminated. That's going to be hard to get a man the size of Bradshaw to teeter, balance himself. Nice, a timely thumb to the eye by Citizen Storm. He's a class act.
Down goes Lance Storm. He's out of here.
He's on his way back to Calgary.
Did you have obviously WrestleMania is your favorite WWF pay-per-view, but what would fall second for you? Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, something else?
I like the Rumble.
Yeah.
Because it had a definitive destination and it was unpredictable and so forth. There goes JBL, not happy he was eliminated.
It's fun to think about the what ifs here, Jim. And this question comes from us on Instagram. At a wrestling historian wants to know: was there a backup plan in case Hunter wasn't able to recover in time, and who would that have been?
Oh man. Well, it's going to be one of your top handful of main event guys. It's going to come from that pack of Taker and Austin and all these cats. But I don't know. There's a specific backup. You know, Hunter had been rehabbing diligently, and he just well, there's one of your answers.
There's the Undertaker riding his motorcycle to the ring here.
Yes, sir.
Dead Man Inc. Shirt on, and
the Clint Eastwood of WWE.
This might be my favorite version of the Undertaker, and I know a lot of our listeners absolutely hate when I say that. They like the traditional Dead Man, but this version is a layer of realism. Like if that guy walked into a bar, everybody's looking and nobody's talking.
Everybody's buying him a drink.
Yep.
And he would accept the Jack Daniels.
Yeah, I saw Rick order the Undertaker a few rounds of drinks once. I forget where. Maybe we're in Atlanta. But what made me laugh, it was Nashville. But what made me laugh is Rick kept ordering them chilled. And after like the third one, Undertaker said, "What's up with this chilled shit? It's not tequila."
Oh, that's funny.
The Undertaker has laid waste to everyone in the ring at this point.
Yeah. Well, that's how you establish and help get somebody over. Who was that? Just went out.
Al Snow. He gone. Undertaker actually would get 7 eliminations in this, which is tied.
Oh, there goes Rikishi. First man in, just went out. He was that close.
And there goes Billy Gunn. So at this point, it's the Undertaker's yard. He rules the roost. How's that for some creative?
I like it.
Absolutely.
The fans liked it.
And you may recall he's just had a handicap match on TV where he beat the shit out of both of the Hardy Boys.
Yeah. Well, sacrificial lambs. And I'm sure the Hardy Boys had no issues doing business with Taker. Everybody loves Taker.
So that makes me wonder, like, who's coming out next? Let's take a listen.
Who is it? Who's the victim?
I love Lawler. Who's the victim? And the victim is Matt Hardy. So the lamb is being led to slaughter again. Kiss your wife goodbye. Here we go. And this is going to be a one-sided affair, I would imagine. One of the things that we should talk about as far as, the what ifs scenario. Oh, and Lita's going to come off the top here.
I love that. Not politically correct today, but
She learned her lesson the first time.
I think everybody fell in love with her T-back attire. She's something else. And that kick to the nuts was something else. It gave Matt Hardy an opening. He couldn't go for the cover because it's over the top to the floor, and there's no disqualification. So there you see the baddest man in the yard selling for Matt Hardy and for Lita. I like Matt Hardy and Lita. I got a lot of time for Lita. I think she's going to be in the female version of the Royal Rumble this year.
Yeah, we just saw her return to TV the other day, and she left Mrs. Charlotte Flair laying. So I guess she's got big plans for the Royal Rumble coming up at the end of the month.
That's good. She deserves a payday and an opportunity to reinvent herself. I don't know how come any of these talents to get the opportunity to participate in a big pay-per-view like the Royal Rumble, they're silly not to do it. And if you're going to stand on principle where I needed more money, or I needed to win, or whatever, well, you're really screwing up. You're getting bad advice from somebody. Take the TV time.
Yeah, it never hurts your brand to be in a featured spot on TV.
No. But some of them get bad advice.
Yeah. It's why after all these years, Eric Bischoff still pops up and makes appearances. Yeah. It's not exactly like he needs the money. It's more a circumstance of, hey, this is an opportunity to continue to promote my appearances, promote my podcast, et cetera, et cetera. Exactly. And we're counting down here. 5, 4. Let's see who it is.
Here comes
So Matt made it through. We think one sequence here.
How about a little help here? His brother Jeff now flying into the ring. They had a handicap match on Raw, and now it's going to be a handicap match here at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, nice episodic booking, I think.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, but Jeff, Jeff had so much charisma and he was so beloved. It just really broke my heart to have to deal with some of the issues. And that's why I sincerely hope that he gets healthy first and foremost, and that he gets back in the ring, preferably for AEW. I can imagine the matches that Matt and Jeff would have with those tag team guys that we have in AEW right now.
Oh man, y'all's tag team division is just loaded. The Young Bucks, FTR.
I see also, Conrad, excuse me for interrupting, but I also see online on my timeline, there's a lot to unpack here. That wise ass. That there's a lot of talk about the Hardys someday against the Briscoes, or FTR versus the Briscoes. I'm not referring to Jack and Jerry, God bless them, but the ROH Briscoes, who I really like.
I love them. I think they're phenomenal individual talents, but I love them collectively. I think they come off as real. Their work is good, and they have their character stuff down pat. And I just think it's an opportunity for both AEW and the Briscoes. And look, there goes Jeff Hardy.
Nice spot, really nice spot to eliminate Jeff. So Taker was very generous in his performance here in this Royal Rumble match. So many people still standing, they're holding out hope that maybe, just maybe, Jeff can get it done. I thought Lita had a lot of sex appeal because she wasn't a blonde. The redhead,
she stood out.
She really did stand out, and she was so athletic. All that training she got in Mexico, that's where I met her. She's had between jobs.
And now with the Hardys eliminated, who's next?
We're about to find out.
Maven, talk about being led to slaughter. Let's listen to your call here.
The first male coming up winner. You ever watch on second hand on? Yeah, I know what you're saying. Let her talk on this one. Well, he's not gonna beat the Bushwhacker record, but and Lita's still up on the apron. Lita, what is your problem? Didn't like what they're getting Matt and Jeff, and
so Taker just face palmed Lita down. That pisses off both of the Hardys. They're in the ring, doubling down on him. And things are looking bad for the Undertaker. Even though these guys are eliminated, it doesn't mean they can't beat up on him a little bit. And we're about to get the biggest
disqualification, Connie.
Yeah. Biggest pop of the entire program coming up here in just a minute. Let's take a listen.
Jeff Hardy.
Amazing. Maven eliminates the Undertaker. He has just experienced an out-of-body experience. I was trying to get the young guy over. Maven, I see where he's back wrestling some. Always a nice kid.
And of course, he may have been eliminated, but we're not done.
You may have made the biggest mistake of your life. The Undertaker in his own yard by a very wrong rookie. And now the Undertaker he's gonna try to extract some revenge here on Maven. They extract some teeth first. Maven, the young kid who won the first male tough that competition.
So now Undertaker throws Maven out of the ring, not over the top, but through the ring. And boy, this becomes quite a segment here. He's going to beat the shit out of Maven and go have a little popcorn as he does it.
Taker grabbed that steel chair, which makes everybody, ooh. You won't see too many of them anymore.
No. And look at the chair.
Yeah.
That tells the story.
Yeah, he laid it in religiously.
Pushes the cameraman down. Nice little shot of that. But it allows for some business to be handled. Let's take a listen.
Just hit Maven with as foul a chair shot as I have ever seen or ever heard. Why don't you go over there and put a stop to it, JR? Why don't you go ask the Undertaker politely to please stop? Man, Undertaker. Fluttering over the of me.
So Maven's been lacerated, and here comes Scotty 2 Hotty to bring some levity to the situation. Scotty 2
Stand
Hotty,
back, I got this.
Scotty 2
I saw where
Hotty
Scotty's
just,
doing some seminars, Conrad.
Oh yeah,
Some wrestling seminars. Good for him. He has a lot to offer. He learned a lot in WWE back in his days. He's around a lot of really good talent that liked him and were willing to share their knowledge with him. And he listened.
and now there goes Maven over the top rope. So he's now officially been eliminated, even if Undertaker shouldn't have been in the ring. But the beatdown continues. Little chair shot, and over the barricade we go.
You wanted to go over, just so you remember.
Security now trying to keep up. This is going to be quite a situation because fans can't get enough of the Undertaker, and the beatdown is going to continue up the stairs. I was saying earlier, what was a backup plan? Here comes an interesting question from Nick. He says, was there ever any talk of making the title match a triple threat? Rock, Jericho, and Austin at the Rumble, since the decision was made to have Triple H win the Rumble.
No, not that I recall, Connie. You're saving Austin for look, the whole the spectacular nature of this match, as Undertaker continues to stalk Maven. No, I don't. It was Austin. We needed Austin in this match.
It's interesting, when the night is over here, we don't really know what Austin's doing at WrestleMania or The Rock. And let's remind everybody, in 2001, they were the main event. Rock and Austin were the biggest box office that the company ever had. And 1 year later, as we're getting ready for the Royal Rumble here, or for WrestleMania here at the Rumble, when the night's over, we still don't know what they'll be doing. Christian's out next here. How could you not love Christian's entrance? All the pyro, what a spectacular presentation for an entrance.
Yeah, he got the full treatment, did Christian. And the only thing these guys are missing right now, Conrad, are the damn Dippin' Dots. Come on. You can do better than popcorn. Give me some Dippin' Dots, for God's sakes.
You would have thought by now you would have had some sort of Dippin' Dots endorsement deal out of that call.
I need a good agent.
Well, I think you got a good agent. You just maybe need a food agent.
Maybe I just need to motivate him. Much like Undertaker's motivated right now.
Slamming Maven through the popcorn machine. The glass bursts. He has some popcorn. And now there's Christian still wearing his belt, just posing in the ring, waiting for who's next. And next is going to be Diamond Dallas Page. Scotty 2 Hotty still trying to put himself together here on the outside of the ring. Jericho is going to be in the main event of WrestleMania against Hunter. At this point, though, in January of 2002, we don't know what Austin's going to be doing at WrestleMania. And we know ultimately he winds up with Scott Hall. And I don't know that he's too tickled with that idea.
Not at all.
And The Rock winds up with Hulk Hogan, which at this point, neither one of those guys are in the promotion. But in hindsight, it does feel like maybe we should have done something a little more with Steve.
Yeah, and it wasn't Scott. And all due respect to Scott.
Right.
Yeah, it didn't. That was really a psychological nightmare, I think, for Steve, that he was kind of future downward, and getting The Rock to work with Hulk and vice versa. That was the big win of the night. That match should have closed WrestleMania 18.
Everybody agrees.
Yeah. they put on a show, man.
Here comes
Here comes
DDP and
DD me.
oh, look at you with the Mark Madden reference, DD me. You weren't
Is
a
that
big.
is that where I stole that from?
I think he was the first guy to start referring to him as that back in the WCW days.
Yeah, it was timely.
Were
There's nobody in the business that I can recall being around that started at such a late age that became such a great star.
Yes.
As Paige Falkenberg. I used to have so much fun with him at TV. I'd say, Paige Falkenberg, please report the baggage claim. I thought it was funny. A lot of the boys thought it was funny. DDP, I don't think, had my sense of humor.
Well, yeah, he's legally changed his name now. He is Dallas Page.
Oh, cool. Well, that'll save a lot of intellectual property issues. But Dallas just, he's mid-30s when he gets into frigging business. It's an amazing accomplishment. It's got it too hot.
Nobody like him either. You know, you think about all that he accomplished, and you talked at the beginning of the show about all the hurdles you overcame. I mean, this guy not only overcame the age issue, and nobody talks about it, but he talked about it a lot in his first book that came out while he was still in WCW. Until the 90s, he couldn't read. I mean, this is a guy who had a lot of success in his life as a club promoter and club owner, and financially he was successful. And then he managed to get himself on TV and become a primetime wrestler and works his way up. And over the course of several years, finally becomes a main eventer and becomes the guy and a world champion. And now he's got this hugely successful business, actually several of them. And what a story he has to overcome all of that, the age, the aches, the pains.
Yeah.
Literacy. That's not something people talk about, but he did it all, man. And
he's got my respect and has for years. And I'm really excited at like you mentioned, here comes Chuck with blonde hair. That'll get him over, by God. I like the headbands. They never come. See, this is what pisses me off. I don't like wrestlers that wear necklaces. And I sure as fuck don't like headbands that stay on in combat. It's illogical, Conrad. Oh, you're too old school, JR. You're just too cranky. You're too crotchety. All that's true, by the way. I am a cranky, crotchety old bastard. But I'm your old bastard, ladies and gentlemen. But finally we lost the headband. Now I'm a little bit happier.
I swear I've said that to somebody when somebody said, man, was JR in a foul mood? He just seemed crotchety. I said, yeah, but he's our crotchety.
That's right.
Yeah. This match, by the way, is actually going to be quite the performance for Hunter. I think when it's all said and done, he's going to set a new record here for the longest Royal Rumble match. It goes 69 minutes and 22 seconds. The longest match prior to that was 66 minutes and 35 seconds. I'm only mentioning this because we set a little bit of a record here. This match is officially the longest match in company history at this point.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And if you did a lottery, you would probably pick those 3 guys or 4 guys, whatever. It's pretty cool. Good distinction for those fellas.
I wanted to also mention that Hunter coming back here is an interesting dynamic. You mentioned it earlier. When he suffered the injury and the quad is torn, he's a heel, but he comes back to such a huge reception.
Right.
And here's another return right here. Let's take a listen.
Lawler loved the hose.
Well, they're popular.
Yeah. They're a good accompaniment for the Godfather.
He came out with 4 and he went back for more. Here's 4 more. There's a total of 8 ladies out there now. He's pulling out all the stops here in Atlanta, but I don't think he's done.
Charles, right. If you're in Vegas, go check him out. I don't remember the club he works at. He runs, but he's built a great life for himself and his wife, his family there in Vegas. I should know that. I've been in a strip bar many times, but I can't remember the damn name of it.
Well, if you run into him, he's probably going to have some recommendations if you're trying to join his, not hoe train, but smoke train. Because I'm sure he's tickled to be living in Nevada. It's totally legal out there now.
You know what we do when we see each other, Conrad, Charles Wright, Godfather, and I
enjoy some chocolate cake.
Well, that happens. We play dominoes.
Oh, there you go.
We play dominoes, and I absolutely love it. He's a domino, old school soul, and we partner up and play dominoes with some of his guys that also play dominoes. And I think they're too fucking afraid to lose. That's the thing they got to do. Godfather and JR's going over.
Godfather just can't get enough. He's got to go dance a little more with all 12 of the ladies.
Yeah, Vince loved this. Vince loves dancing and music and sexy women and all that, and they're playing their role. I'm just trying to see if there's any women there that I might recognize.
I love they're showing you. Oh, by the way, while we were watching the hose, DDP was eliminated because we weren't showing that. We're not showing the guys who are actually trying to win a strip WrestleMania. We're showing the girls and the guy dancing. And already it's time for our next entrant. But you know, Godfather as a gimmick got a little bit of criticism, but say what you want. Did you see that crowd when they heard the Godfather's music? They were ready for it, man. He was over.
They loved it.
Yeah.
Here comes one of the head coaches there at the Performance Center. Prince Albert. Matt Bloom.
Still doing his thing.
Former Division I offensive lineman. His dad played in the NFL. I got to be great friends with him too over the years. And Matt is just a natural born coach. Done a great job for the Performance Center. I guess he's still there. I don't keep up with all the comings and goings as much as I probably should. But he was just a big mobile. I remember meeting him. He was going to be George the Animal Steel Jr., which I was never for. Any juniors, you know, I'm not. It just didn't work for me.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Hunter's pop. You know, he gets this big hero celebration when he comes back. Kurt Angle, who's still performing as a heel in this era, he cuts him off, and we know for sure that he's headed to the Royal Rumble. And I guess that presents a bit of a challenge because he was on quite a heel tear when he left. And it seems like, okay, well, that's what he's going to come back at. But fans are going to cheer him because he's a star.
Right.
And they knew that. So they skillfully played into that with all of these music videos and built the big hype and the big return. And Godfather's eliminated here. Hunter probably preferred playing a heel to a baby face, but if you know they're going to cheer, you just got to lean into it, right?
Most guys do. They think being a heel is more fun. But Hunter was a team guy, really. I know it's going to make some people roll their eyes, but he was just a Perry Saturn. We often forget about Perry. He came in with Malenko, Benoit, and Eddie. And it was kind of an underrated guy. I always thought. I thought Perry was very skilled.
Totally agree. Loved his stuff.
Yeah. And see, we're way deep in this damn Royal Rumble, and the quality of what we're seeing in the ring, it hasn't dissipated. Those guys still working hard. They're laying their shit in. They're telling a nice story. And they're getting some premium television minutes. I'm not so sure that Christian knew he was going down with a double leg takedown.
Yeah, up next, we're going to have one of the biggest stars there ever was coming out, and we're going to make sure we want to track that. It's going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then we've still got a couple more surprises in here. And when it comes down to it, the final four is going to include Mr. Perfect. And once Stone Cold makes his way in, I want to talk about that and how he became part of the company. Because as the legend goes, he was actually under contract, whatever that means, to the XWF. And you guys had to navigate that. So we want to talk about that and how he became one of the final four. And then ultimately, it didn't last forever. And we know why. That dreaded plane ride from hell that would happen, I don't know, 4 or 5 months after this. And that was the end of this run, which is unfortunate. But
you can tell the company wanted Chuck to get over.
Oh, absolutely. They had high hopes. Listen to this pop here. So let's talk about Hunter here or Mr. Perfect for a minute. Do you remember how that whole deal came together with getting him involved and getting him back for this? Did he reach out? Do y'all reach out? Do you recall?
I think it might have been a mutual deal. We wanted a nice surprise. Kurt still had a great name identity. People knew who the hell he was. And if you're a promoter and one of your stars wants to come to roost back in his home base, you pretty much should cooperate if you wanted to ever wrestle for you again. So, but these guys are feeding Austin like a champion. And there goes Chuck. He had a long, he had a long stay. And there goes Harry Saturn.
Yeah.
Stone Cold is standing at the top of the mountain.
All by his lonesome. And we've got a return coming. I love when he used to look at his wrist tape like he was checking his watch. You saw a little bit of that last week with Paulie talking about Royal Rumble 97. Speaking of Paulie, you and he recently sat down and did a little bonus piece of work here for the UWF on the 35th anniversary. You watched something from January of 1987. I bet you love that old stuff, the old days of UWF.
I did. Paulie does a great job of preparing and with his notes. Who did a watch along from a UWF television show. That's for our ad-free customers. And it was a fun show to do. It was loaded with stars. All three Freebirds, Dr. Death, DiBiase, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. It was a rough and tumble hour of bloody television. And so if you get a chance to see that, folks, you're on the member of our ad-free network. And if you're not, that's a good reason to be. Austin playing his what thing.
Yeah, playing up the what's in a big way. And what's next? Well, it's Val Venus. Let's take a listen.
Lawler's so incredulous with every entrance. I love it.
Well, it's kind of fun too that we're getting some nostalgia. You know, we talked about it with Goldust earlier, and now we had Godfather and Val Venus. So we've got some classic Attitude Era characters here. Of course, at this point, they had both Godfather Alvin and Val Venus tried some different looks with the Good Father and the Right to Censor and all that. So now we're getting back to really what maybe marked their biggest and highest runs and most notable successes in the company. But Mr. Perfect was supposed to be a one-shot deal here. At least that's what was reported at the time, that the XWF, even after this was over, this match was over, he was headed to go do the NAPTI convention to say, hey, TV media buyers, we're a new wrestling league. And look, we've got Mr. Perfect. Of course, we know ultimately he gets a primetime spot in this match. He becomes one of the last four. And Meltzer would even write that there was a lot of talk about that afterwards about how he had been presented. Were you guys just overwhelmed and really impressed with his presentation? Did Vince feel like he had unfinished business with him based on the way the 96 deal ended, or
I just think that we thought that Kurt had more to give. And he had a very popular persona, and we just thought that there was more that he could do for the company going forward, even though we knew that he had a bad back and his bump card was nearing its end. But Kurt always had the great look. And, I thought he was a really good television commentator. I enjoyed working with him. I know that. So Austin getting all this stuff in, and Val Venus is right there in step.
Here comes Test, who had a little stop and start in this era. It felt like they were going to be working him in an angle with The Rock. And then maybe Vince thought better of it, because after being victorious over The Rock on the primetime show, he winds up helping put over Hurricane on Sunday Night Heat. So a little stop and start, if you will, for Test in this era.
Yeah. Yeah. Just again, checking his pulse. I'm not sure what happened along the way, but Test fell out of favor, as we all have discussed, and he didn't live up to his amazing potential. And there was issues there that we had to discover the hard way, and it finally ended his life much too early.
Way too early.
Yeah. So here we go. Shine, Austin, shine. He's getting beat up by two Canadians. As if that matters. I'm kidding. Austin's selling like a drunk man. He's doing his job.
Here's a question from Brad Bell. He says, Mr. Perfect wound up coming back after the WCW fold, and he didn't leave on the best terms. I've always been curious. Was there ever any discussion about bringing the Macho Man back after WCW folded?
Not seriously. He always for a writer or somebody that was a fanboy, that was always the idea. They would take, there's a elimination, and a lousy sell on the stunner. That's one of the reasons Andrew didn't quite cut the mustard. And there he goes. Looked like a cow on ice going over the top rope.
This is going to be a big moment here. With Test eliminated, we're ready for our next entrant. And at number 22 is where we're at. And it's the one everybody is really ready to see. I think we should probably take a listen to the build and then, of course, the actual entrance, because this is going to be special.
Game time. The new star coming home back to in Madison Square Garden. Couldn't have been a better moment. Great placement, I thought.
Yeah, phenomenally well done. And remember, when we last saw Hunter in the ring, pre-injury, it was as a tag team with Steve Austin. He tore his quad when they were the tag team champs, teaming up to take on Benoit and Jericho. And now we're on a collision course for these two. They're no longer a tag team. They're going to be fighting for a shot at the world title, and the ring is cleared. It's 1-on-1, mano a mano, Austin and Hunter.
Notice how slow Hunter comes to the ring, selling his presence, selling his entrance. He looked great. The crowd was, as we could hear, they were ready. And this is a one-on-one that they were dying to see. And Triple H played it off beautifully. Considering, like you pointed out, Conrad, he left as a heel.
Yeah.
He returned as a babyface.
Yep.
And had nothing to do with the promotion or the booking. It was the fact that he was a star. He was back. We knew the injury was legitimate. And here he is taking his time, letting things soak in, sell, all that stuff. Great stuff. These are two of the best psychologists I ever worked with, Triple H and Stone Cold.
I mean, he's not even in the ring yet. They're just staring at each other. Well done stuff here.
Yeah, I thought we told good stories there too, Lawler and I.
I'll tell you, one of the most memorable moments in Royal Rumble history has already happened when Maven eliminated Undertaker.
Yeah.
I think one of the next most memorable moments is about to happen. And I don't even necessarily mean the physicality between these two guys, but in fact, who's coming next. And I think in this era, there's 90 seconds between each entrant. Maybe I have that right.
That's probably right.
But the concept is the twist that's coming was all time fun moment. Let's take a listen as Hunter and Austin are nose to nose.
Austin throws the first punch, and off we go.
A lot of jaw jacking, and then it was time. And there you see the counter ticking down. And you probably
Business is about to
what's
pick up,
next.
Connie.
In a fun way.
Yeah. Gotta love Gregory Helms. Another young North Carolinian. Gregory is posing a lot.
Yeah, he's ready for a choke slam, but it's a double down with Austin and Hunter. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, this is going to work. Look at old Gregory. Facial expressions. Good job, Gregory.
What a great
you played your role just perfectly.
One
you
of
might
my
want to
favorite
rethink that. You might want to rethink that double choke slam.
You know, not everybody is going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin or the Undertaker, but man, every time Hurricane was out there, you got your money's worth. That was so fun.
Yeah, he was always he's an entertainer.
Yeah.
Now, it's not to say that was not a good worker. He was.
Correct.
But he was a really entertaining son of a gun, just naturally. He'll send me a text every now and then and see how you're doing, and nice spine buster. And tribute to Arn Anderson, who always, I thought, did the best spine busters. Damn. Look who's here, Conrad.
It's a big one. Here comes Farouk, and he is fit to be tied. You want to talk about a badass? I think in a real life encounter, I'd probably pick Ron Simmons to win this whole damn thing.
I couldn't disagree with that at all. Ron was so respected that the other guy sold his stuff, as they should. It should go without saying, but it's not the way it always is. But with Ron, there was so much respect for him, and then see how professionally he went up. See the difference, him going over the top rope and test a few minutes ago?
Yep.
Different deal, Conrad, different deal. So now what we are down back to 2, right?
Yep. The Chief stands alone here. Coming up next, we've got the last big surprise. I guess it's not really a surprise because it was promoted, but we've talked about him a lot. Mr. Perfect is going to be coming in next. And from here on out, man, it is nothing but nonstop Hall of Famers. What a loaded roster. I mean, you just take a look at all the competitors in this, and man, it sticks out like a sore thumb how loaded this roster is.
Yeah, who in the hell was in charge of talent at that point in time? Some goof that never wrestled a match in his life.
That's not fair. Johnny Ace wrestled a lot.
What an asshole you are. Let's move on to another story that's actually true and real. How many of these guys you think Ace signed? I'll not wait for my answer.
Yeah, I don't think one's coming. I'm
Correct,
excited
sir.
to hear the big pop though for Mr. Perfect. You talk about nostalgia. I was in the crowd and losing my mind for this one.
You were, oh yeah. The familiarity, the love of the character, it's the fun that he brought to the equation was not forgotten. Fans love Kurt. Even it could be a heel or a bayface. They were always entertained by his character.
Yes.
His TV persona was always accepted, and the fans loved it. He's playing with this. He gets over with his towel.
Yes. One of the only guys who could get over with his towel and gum. I remember as a kid, he would stand on the second rope, or I would see him as a kid stand on the second rope, spit his gum out and swat it away. I mean, I used to practice doing that as a kid anytime I could when I knew I wouldn't get in trouble. It's good.
Yeah, Conrad, we use chicken legs.
There you go.
As would I, my friend. So Kurt comes in, looks good, great shape. The guys, see how they sell for Kurt? Because that's respect. That's just nothing more than hard-earned work respect.
We've still got 5 more guys to go, but these are 3 of your final 4 right here. And I think a lot of people saw Mr. Perfect here. They're quote unquote wrestling insiders and know that, hey, well, this is supposed to be the XWF champ and he's the guy they're building their little promotion around. And for him to get an opportunity here, and it was positioned by the company at the time as it was a one-off, but when he winds up being one of the final 4, people start to question that.
Yeah, and, of course.
The conspiracy theorists out there said, oh, well, this is apparent. Oh, here you go. He spit the gum out and swatted it while 2 guys are beating him up. That's how perfect he was. Anyway, I'm saying all that to say people were saying, okay, this is Vince trying to cut the legs off of any new competitors. Speaking of competitors, our next one's coming to the ring.
There he is.
What a run he had at this point. He's still got hair, at least for a few more months, until he gets to Nashville for Judgment Day, and Edge has something to say about that this coming May.
Kurt always reminds me of either a Danny Hodge or a Jack Briscoe, in as much as the amateur background, his amateur training was amazing in how he adapted from the mat in a wrestling room to this.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. Maybe the closest thing I could say was probably Jack Briscoe. Kurt and Jack Briscoe are a whole hell of a lot alike. And of course, Jack Briscoe became a NWA champion and so respected, the Briscoe family, as they deserve. So now we're back down to where we got 4 guys. They can pair off, they can work a few spots, and all of them are prime time players.
Absolutely. You know, 4 of the best that ever did it. And this is actually going to be the final 4. These next 4 guys who are coming in are not going to be long for this world as we start winding down. When I look back and I think about all of my favorite Royal Rumbles, I think 97 that you watched with Paul last week is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
And then probably 92 where Flair won. And I guess the 30-year anniversary of that was yesterday as people are listening to this, the 19th. But then it's probably this one as my 3rd favorite Rumble. Where does this rank for you all time? Is this top 5 Rumble for you?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I like the booking of it. Pat Patterson, I'm 99% sure laid this out, and he this was his creation. So Pat always had a vision for the Royal Rumble, and always had a cool plan. And the boys listened to Pat. You know, they respected his judgment. Here comes another
big competitor, Big Show himself, strutting to the ring here. Got a different look from what we see these days. Still hanging on to a little bit of hair and wrestling in the singlet.
Yeah.
Mitchell had a great question. He says, in Rumbles where Jerry Lawler was a surprise entrant, did you know beforehand? I know you've said before you like to know as little as possible so your reactions can be genuine. But in this case, you'd be flying solo for a period of time on commentary. Would you have a heads up?
No, didn't need it. All I needed to see was the monitor, what the fans at home were saying.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a ball game. You know, I can promise you that the broadcasters this past weekend in the NFL, obviously they didn't have a clue.
No. But they also, the other broadcaster didn't also put on a helmet and run on the field midway through. So there's a little different.
No, they didn't do that. I was pulling for them. But this is, you got to get Big Show in there so he doesn't stay too long, because you don't want him to blow up. Fatigue. Look at Kurt, the daredevil. Nice shot to the leg, destroys the vertical base. And now the smart money is for everybody involved to focus on the largest man in the ring and the largest man that will be likely coming to the ring tonight.
No doubt. All that's left is Kane, Rob Van Dam, and Booker T here. And
how about that? That's pretty good bullpen.
Oh yeah. You think? I mean, you just look at this and there's not a lot of weak spots in this whole roster of folks who are in here. And I'm not saying that the company has had weak Royal Rumbles, but I am going to say that sometimes guys would come out and you'd be like, well, there's no way he's going to win, a Bushwhacker or what have you, Virgil.
Right.
But here I could be convinced, all right, maybe they are going to give Kane a shot, or they're going to give Big Show a shot.
Plausible. It was plausible, Conrad.
Yes.
I mean, Kane was a main event guy.
Yes.
And another guy that we wanted to build around because we knew that we could rely on him.
I just think the folks who put this match in particular together did such a fantastic job of following up on the Hardy Boys Undertaker story, the use of Maven here for the big surprise. And then of course, you know, getting the ring cleared out so it could just be nose to nose, Austin and Hunter, since we last saw them sort of pre-injury as a tag team, and now they're at odds. And then the silliness of the fun of the Hurricane double choke slam spot. Anywhere else, I don't think it works as well, but in that moment, it just did. Brilliant.
Yeah, it did work. You're right.
Well, something I wanted to ask about is Hunter's return, because everyone often looks back at this and says, oh, well, this came back. Kane,
can you believe that spot?
Kane just muscled Big Show over the top by himself.
He body slammed him from the ring to the floor, and both feet did touch the floor. So now we are down to these gents, and there's Kurt using his angle slam. Worked out. Kurt's now celebrating.
So we're back to our final four again.
Yeah. There's a method to this madness. It's just not indiscriminate bullshit. There's a story being told, and there's just new chapters to write every time somebody new comes out.
I wanted to ask about Hennig coming back though, because not Hennig, but Hunter coming back as we see the clock tick down. Let's see what kind of pop Van Dam gets.
A lot of the fans would have loved for Van Dam to win this thing. He was he was a popular favorite,
especially here in 02. Oh man, he's going to start with a frog splash. Well done. Angle's in perfect spot for it. This whole thing's put together so well.
How good is Angle? He was in his spot every single time.
Yep.
He was where he was supposed to be.
I'm eventually going to get this thought out. This is not Hunter's return. We look back at this and we talk about this like this was Hunter's return. It was in fact not. He actually came back on SmackDown, a taped SmackDown. And then this is his second match back. In hindsight, would you have waited and made this his first match back? Or was that a nice way to get some attraction on SmackDown?
It's so pay-per-views.
Yeah.
I think that would be your answer in a short form. He had a good showing on this debut, his return. He was just, the love that he was given by the fans was obvious. So you hope that it will sell some pay-per-views. That's the real bottom line of that whole deal. With that Kurt, man. He's tough. He's tougher than a $2 steak, as I have said a few times. Gotta love him. Austin and Hunter still in there. Kurt still in there. Perfect, still in there. So they're letting a story be told.
Yes.
And then RVD gets that great pop coming out, and the fans just gravitated to Rob because he was defiant and young and all that stuff, had unique moves that he did, nobody else did. That's why you tell guys all the time, do something different. Well, what can I do? Are you that stupid? What do you mean, what can I do? Take ownership of your persona. What's that?
Booker T's our last man. He's number 30, the coveted number 30. So at this point, we know one of these guys is going to WrestleMania and he's going to get a title shot.
Yeah. How good did Book look? Book always looks good. Always in great shape.
We said earlier in the show that Undertaker is going to tie Austin for the most eliminations here. They both had 7, but when Austin does his 7th elimination, as we see Rob Van Dam dumped out there, Austin's going to hold a record for the most eliminations in Royal Rumble matches. He'll hit number 36 in this match, which is a record that was held for 8 years until Shawn Michaels broke it in 2010. So it's always fun to break down the stats like it was a baseball game or something when it comes to the Royal Rumble. And there you go, Booker T right out of there. Of course, he's had a hot issue with Stone Cold, and that's all it took.
Yeah. Kurt trying to eliminate Austin now. We're saying for the final 4 are in there. Who's going to get the big money match at WrestleMania?
Everybody's trying to hit their finish. No one is successful so far. Catapult there, and angle slam for Hunter. Yes, indeedy.
See, the no pinfalls really helps the case there.
Yes,
but you got to get them weakened and to a point where they can be thrown over the top rope, both be touching the floor, of course. But this is like a little all-star team. I mean, you can start a territory with these guys
for sure.
Kurt loves those suplexes, man. And when he got the waist lock in and he's got his feet under him, you're going up and you're going down.
And I bet Austin's probably not tickled at the idea of taking a bunch of suplexes, but if you're going to have somebody give them to you, probably just as well be Angle as anybody else.
Yeah, and you can retaliate by the low blow we just saw. Again, no disqualifications in this match, so it's kind of martial law. The Wild West lives again.
Are you surprised to see that Kurt's son, the former Curtis Axel, is not working in wrestling at the moment?
I am a little bit. I like that kid. I like that kid a lot. Such a good spirited, warm kid. I think he takes after his mom. She's such a nice lady. And you know, and yeah, I'm surprised because I think he's got value. Now he may be out of shape, he may have lost interest and all that stuff. I don't know those things, Conrad. But I do think he was good enough to be on somebody's roster today. And they're like the Curtis Axel. Well, we'll just kill him. Okay, there's Kurt.
Oh man, look at there. So Austin has been eliminated. We're down to 3. So it's Angle, Mr. Perfect, and Hunter. And you got to think everybody assumed it was going to come down to Austin and Hunter, but that is not the case, as now Austin has pulled Mr. Perfect out from under the bottom rope and they're brawling on the floor. Kurt Angle wants to do as much damage as he can to Steve Austin, so he runs him into the steps. And now both Angle and Perfect are back in the ring. We're down to 3, man.
Yeah, Triple H going to try to take advantage of this little open door. He's got 2 eliminations to get to before he punches his ticket to the main event at WrestleMania.
Austin came in at number 19. He was in longer than anybody else, 26 minutes and 46 seconds. Hunter's going to have the second longest run at 23 minutes and 14 seconds.
Uh-oh.
Austin's not done. Now he's got a chair and he takes it to Angle's head and Perfect's head.
That's a little assist for Hunter. Those Austin chair shots are legendary. And just to make sure Hunter doesn't feel left out, he gets one too. It's funny looking at the fans at ringside, what they're wearing and what T-shirts are hot and so forth. I'm always curious about that. But Austin leaves in good hands. He leaves in a good stead. He did not win the Royal Rumble, but he sure as hell made an impact on it. And he left 3 of the biggest guys, biggest stars in the wrestling business laying on their ass as a result of chair shots.
It's interesting to look back at this and think about how much wrestling has changed. And you were talking about seeing what the fans were wearing. I see a kid there in the front row wearing a Michael Vick jersey. Of course, we're in Atlanta. He's got Vick's number 7 jersey on, who had just been a big draft pick for them. But yeah, a young A young version of me is there in the lower level somewhere.
I wish I could find you.
Oh man, look at there. Mr. Perfect is out, or is he? He's hanging on. He's back in. He was a master at that, was he not?
Yeah, man. He was just had great balance, coordination. Kurt was just a phenomenal athlete. He was, performed or perpetuated by those vignettes that they did. He was looking for his
classic stuff in now. People wanted to see that Mr. Perfect neck breaker and that fisherman suplex or the perfect plex.
Oh, nice hit.
He wasn't paying attention though, and Hunter got him out of there. So we're down to our final two. Somebody's going to WrestleMania. Again, everybody probably thought it would be Austin and Hunter. Maybe they thought we'll save that for another day.
Somebody's going to get a nice 6-figure payday as a result of this match and what it will allow to happen at WrestleMania. I like the fact that these guys are smart enough to not rush things.
Yep.
They're letting things soak in and the tension build. And Triple H has got that next gear, and who better to be in there than Kurt Angle? I mean, he's going to sell great. He's going to take big bumps. He's going to respect the match. He's going to respect being in this spot. Just love Kurt's work ethic and his team work. Because let's face it, Kurt can beat anybody in the roster.
Yeah.
I mean, it's real.
Yeah.
But the real don't sell money, sell tickets in our world.
Right.
Somebody's going to disagree with that. All it does. Okay. Whatever you want to say, as long as you're watching. I thought that I saw Sunny at ringside. Could that have happened?
No, that wasn't her. That was somebody. That was a lookalike.
Oh, okay. Well, nice try, JR. I thought she's kind of had some issues lately. I hope she gets out of that shit.
Oh, I think everybody's pulling for her.
She's got to make better decisions than her menfolk, as my granny might say.
Yeah, maybe she needs to cut it out.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. We're getting down to the bottom of the ninth here, guys.
Yeah, let's track this because this is going to be a big finish.
Already. The winner.
Kurt thinks he's won it. Kurt's on Dream Street. Boom! And there you go. The returning hero steps up. Bottom of the ninth. It's a walk-off homer.
Big moment. Hunter's back. We have our main event for WrestleMania set, or at least mostly in place. We know that somebody is going to give Hunter a shot. I say somebody because there's still that No Way Out pay-per-view to get to along the way. And that's where we're going to see the NWO come back. But we won't be talking about that next week. Instead, we'll be talking about what I believe to be the best single year performer that we ever saw. And maybe there's some debate about that, but certainly my favorite, Shawn Michaels in 97, 98. And of course, he's going to miss a little bit of time here and there, but his swagger was off the charts. His promos were phenomenal. Everything was believable, but I know he was a burr in your saddle. He was a thorn in your side, but I can't wait to talk about it. We're going to talk about winning the Royal Rumble while he's sick in his hometown in a dome. We're going to talk about losing his smile the next month and dropping the title. We're going to talk about whether or not his knee injury was legit. We'll talk about the backstage brawls with Bret Hart. We'll talk about becoming the top heel and having some pretty controversial promos. We'll talk about the Hell in a Cell, the very first one. Of course, the Montreal Screwjob, the very brief promo or program rather with Owen. And then of course, hurting his back at the Royal Rumble and that casket match that changed the course of his career and the WWF for several years. Yeah. And then of course, the now infamous WrestleMania 14 moment with Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's quite a story and I can't wait to talk about it next week, Jim.
Yeah, it's going to be good. A lot of, as you like to use that term, deep dive.
Yep.
There's a lot of digging in this one. And people know they know my stance, you know, because I love Shawn and I love the man that he's become. And we'll talk about that because it wasn't always looking like that would happen. So I'm anxious to talk about this because it's really a story of a win, weathering the storm, improving yourself, getting straight, and all those things. But that didn't happen overnight. So we'll talk all about that next week. And hopefully in the meantime, some of you folks will check out jrsbbq.com and get you a little bit of sauce or some seasoning or chipotle ketchup. That reminds me, I think I'm going to make a meatloaf the next day or two. And that's all about the seasoning and the chipotle ketchup.
Well, you know where you can pick all that up, jrsbbq.com. I know I'm loading it up, and a friend of mine said that he's got a big cross-country road trip coming up, so he's going to do a bulk order of that jerky. There's something for everybody over at jrsbbq.com. If you haven't already, check it out. As our pal says, it costs nothing to look.
No, it doesn't.
So just take a look. And by the way, this is not a novelty order. I know that a lot of times when people see these products, they think, oh man, that'll look cool on a shelf, and it will. But I'm going to suggest that you order two, one to try and one to display. But
Yeah.
here's a spoiler for you. When you get finished with that one you're trying, you're going to say, I think I'm going to take this one off the shelf and just go ahead and reorder another one for the shelf.
Hey,
That was so damn good. I want some more of it.
Oh, Connie, you're so smart. My God. I love those cheeks and that brain. Yeah, man. Like I said, it doesn't cost anything to look. That's a tongue-in-cheek thing, but it really doesn't. And try it. You said, well, I've heard JR and Conrad talk about this so many times. Maybe I'll try it. There's no reason not to. And we appreciate your generosity and your business because we're going to sell you a good product. We're not going to sell you some bottle of shit. I'll put that out on a t-shirt. This is not a bottle of shit. No, probably not. I'll have to rethink that concept.
Well, I'm excited about whatever new products you might be working on, but I'm going to enjoy the ones you got right now over at jrsbbq.com. And we hope if you're digging what we're doing and you want some more, that you'll hit the subscribe button, tell your friends, and check us out next week. But we also hope that you'll sign up for a little more, a little second helping, if you will. You get all of our shows early and ad-free over at adfreeshows.com, including JR talking about one of his favorite subjects, old school UWF. It's available right now at adfreeshows.com, Jim.
Yeah, it is. And on Fridays, we drop our studio sessions, my old radio show from WSB with some big time talent. You hear it unrehearsed, and it's recorded, obviously back in those days, but it was a live recording. So we didn't go rehearse. We didn't have notes and things like that to any degree. So that's a fun show. Then like we talked about earlier, those UWF watch-alongs are gold. I think everybody's going to love those. So there's a lot of reasons to check out adfreeshows.com. A lot of reasons, not just my stuff, which I'm partial to, obviously, and being honest with you, but it's the way to go, and it's affordable. It's affordable. I mean, it's a trip or two through a Starbucks drive-through. Enjoy it and check it out. So it's all good, man. Life is good, Connie. I'm feeling better, and thank all the folks their concerns, and they're the best. You're the best. So I'm really happy that this thing is going well. And I know you got some big projects in mind that we won't release here on the air, but I'm excited about the future of the Ad Free Network in 2022.
Me too, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of big announcements coming your way, but none bigger than you need to stay tuned to AEW each and every Wednesday. Jim Ross is still doing what he does better than anybody else in the world, calling professional wrestling. He is the voice of wrestling, and you can catch him every Wednesday on Dynamite, and you can catch him every Thursday right here on Grillin' JR. It's the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We love you, and we appreciate your business. We really do. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, buddy.